Hello, folks. How are you? So my name is Maximiliano. I can go by Max. I know it's a long name. And this is going to be the PWA Cheat Sheet 2021. So we're going to discuss what's important this year for every progressive web app. So we're going to talk about PWA. So really quickly about myself. So I'm a mobile web developer. So I've been doing web development since 1995. Okay, so a long time ago. And I'm from Argentina. I'm currently at home in Buenos Aires. So I'm logged in, basically, waiting for the vaccine. And I also been a trainer and consultant around the world on big companies and small companies on mobile apps, native apps, web apps, native web apps or mobile web apps, and also the web. So you can find content that I authored on many places, including magazines, so like Net Magazine, rest in peace, and some books from O'Reilly Media. And also there are some video courses of different publishers, such as Pluralsight or Safari, O'Reilly Learning. And also I have my website, fair.dev, where you can find the free content on the topic that we are going to cover today. So we're going to cover PWA. By the way, I authored this, the cover article. PWA is the current DNA of the web. I really like the design, okay, of that cover. I didn't design the cover. So just to remember where we are, okay, so a progressive web app is just an app built with web technologies that it should work fast while online or offline, and it can be installed on different platforms. Okay, that's kind of a quick definition. So if you're here, probably you know what a PWA is, a progressive web app is. And we know it's also ideal for all those apps that are just consuming web content or web services. That are, if you think about this, most of the apps, for example, in the App Store or in the Play Store, are just consuming web content or web services. Well, the PWA platform is ideal for those situations. So, and PWA is just a web app. So it can be a vanilla JS app, a server-side app, a React application, a Vue application, or Angular, whatever you want. So it's just a web app. On top of that, we have a layer of service workers that are kind of the brain of the PWA. And then we have a distribution layer that we typically define this as the web app manifest. So it's kind of a way that we have to actually make that app installable. Okay, so these are the layers of a PWA. Before talking about what needs to be done this year, so the cheat sheet for this year, let's cover briefly the current state of the platform. I don't want to bore you with this, but just to understand where we are. So we're going to start talking about support. So where are PWAs installable? Okay, and in that case, talking about mobile, on Android, we can say that mostly every browser on the Android platform currently supports PWA. Of course, that compatibility differs per browser, so it's not the same in the Huawei browser or in Google Chrome, but we have support, so you can actually install a PWA in most of the browsers. On iOS or iPadOS, it's actually available on Safari. Okay, so it's currently available on Safari. And also from App Stores, you have availability of PWAs on feature phones, such as KaiOS and GeoPhones, mostly found in South Asia or Africa. On desktop, we have support on all the desktop operating system from Windows 7, if you're using Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, the Chromium version. Okay, so you have support for installing PWAs as desktop applications. And today, installation can happen in 86% of the users browsing the web. So you have a website, 86% of your users, of your visitors, can actually install a PWA, which is actually a good number, to be honest. The number is even bigger when we take only the offline support. So that means service workers. So 95% of them are actually supporting service workers. So 95% of your visitors are supporting today's service worker, and 86% will support the full app experience with an icon installation, and then a standalone experience. Of course, as I mentioned before, the experience might not be exactly the same on every platform. Okay, so we know that that's That has been with the web for years, so it's still here. That problem, that compatibility issue, is still here with us. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but if you have any questions, please use the session page. Okay, so put your question there. At the end of the session, I will take some time to answer your questions. So now so that's compatibility. Now let's talk about market share. So how big is the PWA market? So are PWAs winning over native apps? Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. So what's the current situation? Before I actually show you some numbers, it's important to understand that getting the real numbers is not so simple. Getting fair numbers to compare is not so simple because of the definition of a PWA. I mean, you can have a website with infinite numbers of PWAs, actually, because you can generate WebAPK Manifest on the fly. So that's not so simple on the App Store, for example. So sometimes it's difficult to compare. But I did some research here to actually get some numbers. So you have more information about where these numbers are coming from in my website. That's the URL for this specific article. So let's start first talking about origins with the PWA inside. So that is domains, origins, that has at least one PWA. Okay, it's not exactly the same as PWAs because, as I mentioned before, you can have infinite numbers of PWAs in one origin. But let's say that 120,000 origins contain a PWA today. That means that also we have around 1.5 million installable websites. So websites that are currently installable. So they have a WebAPK Manifest, and you can, if you add the website to the home screen, or if you click install, it will actually install an experience. Only around half of those websites are actually offline capable. So not all of them include a service worker with an offline experience, but it's half of them. So, I mean, numbers are big, are large, but we need to compare this with, for example, 800,000 publishers on app stores. And you say, well, if you compare publishers with origins, kind of something similar, we can see that we are only like 20% on the App Store. And in terms of websites, we have around 2 million apps in the App Store. So in terms of amount of apps available, we are not so different from the App Store. But in terms of publishers, it's different. And in terms of usage, yeah, we will see that PWAs sometimes are in the long tail. So also, another stat that we have is that 12% of apps in the store, so 12% of apps in the store contain a web app inside. So they're using a web view, okay? But it counts as just 2% of the downloads, which means there are a lot of apps with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript inside in the store, but not when you are counting downloads. So that means it's the long tail. It's not like the big names in the store. Big names in the store typically are not using the web inside their platforms. So other information that I have here is that this is coming from the Chrome team. The number of origins with the PWA has grown last year a lot. Okay, so you can see the growth is actually pretty big. So this is getting bigger and bigger every year. And in terms of monthly installations on Android, PWA installations, it's between 10 and 100 million, just for us to understand, to have a reference on how big is the PWA market share. But if we compare this with App Store installations are around the tens of billions. Okay, so we are still far away from here. So even if we have a lot of PWAs out there, we don't have so many app installations. So that means that users are still going to the App Store to download apps most of the time. That might change in the future. We don't know. We know that there are a lot of, let's say, campaigns these days to actually force, or I don't want to say force the user, but invite the user to download apps from other sources, including cloud gaming solutions, including Fortnite on iOS, or now last week, Telegram. So now when you go to telegram.com and you want to download Telegram for Android, it's not pointing to the Google Play Store by default. It's suggesting you to download an APK from a different source. Of course, Telegram also has a PWA, but I'm saying that it seems like we have some campaigns, anti-App Store campaigns going on. There are some political issues there. And that will lead to users getting more used to download app from other sources. So I think that will improve App Store PWA installations, okay? So this is just to have a comparison with the native world. So we can see that the native world in the mobile space is still big, okay? We don't have numbers, unfortunately, on desktop to actually understand how big the PWA platform on desktop is. But hopefully we will get some data during the rest of the year. So also big names have been silently creating new PWAs in the past few months. Okay, so of course there's many big names in the PWA platform, including Microsoft Office. But for example, Apple has converted App Store Connect into a PWA. YouTube Music is a PWA. TikTok has a PWA these days that even works on desktop. And then Graphic Designer, Stadia, Amazon Luna, and many others are actually creating PWA solutions. So that means that with time, these big names are pushing the platform. It will become more popular within users. So now it's time to talk about the cheat sheet. That was the promise. So if you have a PWA this year, what do you need to have in mind? So what do you need to do to actually keep that PWA in order? And let's say keep that PWA modern and compatible with the latest additions. Here, I'm not going to talk about what new features do we have available in the platform. Okay, that's a different talk. That's a different session. What I'm going to tell you here is that things that every PWA should have implemented today, right now. Okay, so things that you should be doing right after this talk if you have a PWA. I'm not talking about what's next. I'm not talking about something that will improve the experience later or something that you can do optionally. You actually need to go and do everything that I'm going to mention. So we're going to start talking about the app experience. So I have 3 sections here: the app experience, the installation experience, and also the integration with the OS. So those are the 3 sections that I have here. And I have 3 main tips per section. So we're going to start with the app experience, right? So first, we know that app resources are currently being managed by the service worker, okay? But it's common these days to find a lot of apps that are not working properly. For example, you open an app and you see something like this. This is the Uber PWA on desktop, installed on desktop. When you open the Uber PWA, you see a message like this. Let's say because you don't have connection. And probably you're thinking, what's going on here? So maybe you're offline. Okay, but we know that we have a service worker, and the service worker should be serving these files. When you realize that what happened is that the service worker cached the files, but probably a few months ago, and for some reason, that cache has disappeared. So when you want to open Uber and there is a problem in the server or there is a problem in the connection, the files are not there anymore. So we need to learn how to manage app storage. So the app storage includes the service worker's registration, so the service worker itself, the app assets that are in cache storage, HTML, CSS, JavaScript images, web fonts, and the data that we might have in different storages, such as IndexedDB. Okay, so that's actually the app storage. On iOS and iPadOS, with Safari, the best effort policy is being applied. That means that eviction means that your data might disappear. So eviction can happen on storage pressure. So that is, the browser actually needs more storage, or the phone, the device actually needs more storage. So it will delete the cache. After 7 days of inactivity, look at this. After 7 days of inactivity, Safari can delete all your data within Safari. Wait a minute. And also if the user goes to settings and clear the cache. If the user is installing the PWA on iOS, then a persistent storage policy is being applied. In this case, eviction can happen only if the user goes and clears the cache. So after 7 days of inactivity, your data will not disappear. Okay. And by the way, this is Apple, this is Safari, and everything should be considered as temporarily. So there are a lot of bugs sometimes on iOS and PWAs. So sometimes things happen. They shouldn't be happening. This is the official rule, the official policy, but don't trust on this, okay? So things might happen all the time. Now, let's talk about the other world. In this case, we are talking about Firefox and also every Chromium-based browser, including Google Chrome, Samsung Internet Browser, Microsoft Edge, Brave, Opera, and many others. By default, best effort policy is being applied. So eviction can happen on a storage pressure, clearing in the settings, or when uninstalling the PWA, the user has the option to delete the data. So when you're uninstalling the PWA. So it's saying, okay, you may be uninstalling the icon, but do you also want to clear the cache? So that's by default. It doesn't matter if you're installing the PWA or not. So again, I will repeat this. On Google Chrome and Firefox, if you install a PWA, all the assets from your PWA, including the service worker, can be removed from the phone if there is, for example, a storage pressure. So that means the phone is out of memory. In that case, Chrome can delete all your assets. And probably you're thinking, hey, I don't want that. Because if the user has installed the PWA on the phone, maybe she actually wants the data to be there. So that's why we also have a persistent storage model similar to iOS, but in this case, it's not being applied automatically. You need to request this as an API, by an API. If you request persistent storage and persistent storage is granted, only eviction will happen if the user goes to settings and clearing the data for your origin, for your domain. Also, when installing the PWA, the user will have the same option as I mentioned before. So how to request the API? Well, if you use this API, Firefox will ask the user. So you will see a prompt. Okay, this website wants to persist the storage. Do you want to accept that or not? And Chromium will grant or deny based on the activity. Okay, so there is an algorithm there. So this is how it works. You just call navigator storage persist. This is a promise, so you can wait for that and then see if it was granted or not. And probably you should check if the API is available before using it, okay, using progressive enhancement. So this is something that you need to go right now to your website and at your PWA and add this code, because without this explicit call, your storage will not persist, okay? And Chromium-based browsers will grant you persistence if the user has installed the PWA. So if the user has installed the PWA with a shortcut or with an icon or with a WebAPK, then the browser will say, okay, I think that the user actually wants to persist the data. So we will grant this PWA that power, okay? So that's one tip. The next tip that is part of the cheat sheet this year. We need app icons for every platform. This is something that I'm seeing every day. Problems here on every PWA. Not every, but most of the PWAs out there have problems on here. So on Android, we have two kinds of icons. We have shortcuts and we have WebAPK-based icons. Shortcuts looks like this. They have a little browser badge. So you see the PWA badge, such as the Starbucks logo, and then a little badge specifying the browser that has been used to actually install that PWA. Okay, that's known as a shortcut, or a shortcut icon. Then on Android, we also have WebAPK. Of course, we actually don't want this, right? So we don't want to have the icon with the browser badge. So we want WebAPK. WebAPK will be enabled only if you're passing the PWA criteria of that browser. That criteria might change, but right now it means that you have the right metadata in the web app manifest, and also you have a service worker with at least a fetch event handler. Okay, so that's kind of Also, it should be fast and other requirements, but browsers are not currently reinforcing that 100%. So if you are passing the criteria, then WebAPK is enabled. And if that happens, now it's a full Android native package. And an APK is installed silently, signed by the Play Store. Even if you don't have any agreement with the Play Store, this is going to be signed by the Play Store. Then the icon will go to the home screen, and the launcher will contain no badge. It will be badgeless. And also link capturing will be enabled. That means that links pointing to your PWA's scope will actually be open in the PWA itself. That's on Android. This works only with Google Chrome if you have a device with Play services, or on Samsung Internet if you have a Samsung device. It will probably happen on Edge as well on Microsoft devices in the future. So on all the rest of the browsers or situations, shortcuts is going to be used, okay? So icons on Android with WebAPK will appear in the home screen. Look at this icon, the HTML5 logo, that one. So that's actually a PWA installed with WebAPK. Then also it will appear in the launcher. So here we can find it there. In the settings, when you go to settings apps, you will find it there as well. And finally, it will even say that it's installed as an app with the storage and everything that we are used to on Android. Okay, so when WebAPK is enabled, we have a much better experience. But since Android 8, on Android we have something known as adaptive icons. So every Android device can set a different shape for the icons. So we have several different shapes based on the manufacturer and the vendor, and you can change the shapes sometimes. So maybe you're thinking, what will happen with our icon? Because I have only one icon, so what happened with the shape? Well, by default, this is what happens. At the left, we have a lot of PWAs installed, and then at the right, the same PWAs installed on Android 8. So we have Android 7 and Android 8, of course, but we have like more than 50% of the Android users today on the right of the screen. So you can see that every logo that you see there, like the Get Kinda logo or Twitter logo or Lyft logo, they are actually smaller, and they are actually within a wide shape. In this case, the shape is a circle. It's a full circle in this phone. So we don't want that. We don't want our icon to be smaller, okay? So that's something that we need to explicitly change in our project. And we need to create a maskable icon to solve the problem. So it's still going to be a square icon, a PNG file, as you know, but with enough discardable padding content out of something known as a safe area. Let me try to explain this quickly. So this is a PNG, okay? This is a square PNG like any other icon. The idea is that we have a safe area in the middle. You have a formula there, it's 40% of the radius. Anyway, that's the safe area. So that means that every content outside of that safe area might be cropped in the final icon. So for example, if you have a calculator icon like this one, when we apply the safe area, we can see that the rounded corners of the calculator might be outside of the icon. So when we apply this icon to several shapes, you see that we may have some problems on some shapes. So we need to do something with this. What we need to do is actually probably increase the padding like this. Okay, so if we increase the padding, then our content, our logo actually fits within the safe area, and now icons will look fine on every Android shape. Okay, makes sense? So how to do that from a PWA point of view? Because this is a PNG. Okay, on the Web App Manifest, we actually need to define a maskable icon. Okay, so the recommended size is factual. I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's like the recommended size. But if we don't add the purpose maskable property, it's not going to work. And Android will actually take your icon and it will shrink the icon in a smaller shape. Okay, so today, unfortunately, only a few PWAs are supporting this maskable icon. And I think that's something that you need to go and do it now. It's something simple to do, and it will increase the experience of your users on Android, okay? Also, we have a nice application, a free application. It's Maskable.app, where you can actually try, this is coming from a developer. So you can try your icon and see how it will look like on different shapes. And also there is an editor, so you can actually add the paddings and get the PNG from here directly. So now talking about Safari and iOS, Safari ignores icons collection in the app manifest. Okay, so by default, it's not using your icon, and a screenshot is used instead. And there are still a lot of PWAs out there not providing a special icon for iOS. So they're trusting that Safari will take the icon from the manifest, but that's actually not happening. So what you see is, for example, in this case, the calc PWA that you see here, this one, you don't see the icon, you just see a screenshot, okay, of your PWA. That might be good or not, it depends on the case. But on iOS, we still need to provide the icons outside of the web app manifest using a link tag. This is not new, it has been with us for more than 10 years, this link. It was like the bookmark icon for iOS, but it's also being used for PWAs as well. So Apple Touch icon. And if you're going to provide one icon, it should be, today at least, 180 by 180 PNG. Non-transparent, please don't add transparency. It should be a square. And I'm saying one icon here because if you want, you can provide different icons for iPads, for iPhones, and for different iPhones. To be honest, today at least, I don't think it's worth the time to provide more than one icon for iOS. It was something important before with iPhones with different resolutions, but these days, all of them are high or super high resolution, so it's not going to be a big difference, actually. So that's for icons. And the last part that I have here in terms of user experience has to do with the splash screens. So splash screens on Android, that is when you open the app, that you have an installed icon, you click on the icon, and while the app loads, you see a splash screen. On Android browsers, they use the app manifest metadata to design the splash screen. So this is automatically generated by the browser, and we cannot create our own images. Okay, so we cannot customize how that splash screen will look like. So this is typically how it looks like on Android. So we have the theme color will define in the manifest will define the color at the top. The background color will define the background color of the whole splash screen. The icon, it's going to prefer 512, so you should be providing a 512 icon to get the best experience. And then the name. Okay, with this information, it's going to create and design the splash screen. So, okay, yeah, you can customize the splash screen. I'm pretty sure that you're already doing this on your PWA. The problem is iOS and iPadOS. Safari won't use the app manifest metadata. And on the other hand, it lets us create our own static images. They are known within the iOS system as startup images. And this is how it looks like. It's another link, Apple Touch startup image, okay, with the name, with the PNG. The problem is that it needs the image with the exact size of the device's screen. So if you have a PNG file that is not exactly 100% of the screen, it's not going to take it. And the problem is that we have so many iOS and iPad devices out there with different resolutions. And also we have portrait and landscape, which is a problem. Okay. And by the way, you can see that this list, it's actually outdated. So it's not including the latest iPhones. So it's a big problem that we have, actually, because we need to provide a lot of PNGs. And that's kind of a problem. So first, let's see the advantages over Android. We have full customization, so we can actually do whatever we want. It doesn't need to be the icon and the name. So we can actually make really nice and appealing splash screens. We can even provide a dark mode version, which is actually pretty cool. That's actually not possible on Android these days. So we can provide alternatives for dark mode, but it needs a lot of work. So we have 4 ways to solve the problem. Yeah, we can manually create all the PNG files and define all the links with a media query inside. I don't want to get too deep here. You can use a static generator, okay, a client-side library, or a server-side library. So because we have only 45 minutes today, I'm going to just show you one solution, the static generator, but there are more options available. By the way, these slides are going to be shared. I typically share this on my website, also on the conference website. They are part of my courses at Pluralsight. So they have several PWA courses where you can get deeper information also free on my website. So for example, there is a static generator known as PWA-asset-generator. So it's actually pretty simple to remember. So it's on NPM, so you can just go and execute it with npx PWA-asset-generator with a lot of settings. Okay, I don't want to get deep here with the settings. And when you execute this, okay, it will look like this. So you, let me see if this is running. There we are. In the console, you will see that it will take a PNG and it will create also icons in case you want them, and it will create all the versions that you need. And also the HTML, the link that you need to copy and paste within your HTML. Okay, it's just one solution. Also, there are client-side libraries such as PWA Compat and server-side libraries that will also help you with this. Okay, but it's something that will improve the user, the whole experience of your PWA. Okay, so those were the topics on the app experience. Now let's talk about installation experience. So the first thing is not new, but I am still surprised that there are so many PWAs out there that are not taking advantage of this, of providing a custom install user interface. This is currently available on Google Chrome, Opera, Edge, Brave, and other browsers, mostly Chromium based. So it's known as the before install prompt event. It was part of the WebAPK Manifest original spec, but now it's out, okay? And it's implemented only by Chromium. And this event is going to be fired with when the current URL passes the PWA criteria of that browser, and also if the PWA is not already installed. And the availability will actually trigger the info bar. That's the little banner that we see, for example, on Android, okay, that says add this app to the home screen. Also on desktop today, it's triggering the installation, the install icon in the URL bar. On desktop and Android with WebAPK, it creates an install menu item. And also the availability of the installation will allow us to provide our own custom install button. That's my goal, okay, on this part. And that will be when this event is being fired, okay? Also, there are always available installation menu items on some browsers, okay? So that means that they don't depend on that event. For example, browsers on Android, iOS, and iPadOS, they always have a menu item added to the home screen. It doesn't matter if you're passing or not a PWA criteria. Edge on desktop, it has an install site as an app that will let you install any site as an app, even if it's not a PWA. And something similar on Chrome on desktop. It's create shortcut. Okay, so you can actually install every website as kind of a PWA. These menus cannot be actually managed by the developer. So we want to actually provide our own custom install promotion. So that is having a button or something like an info bar or a menu item, okay? Also, we want to avoid user experience duplications, such as seeing the browser menu info bar at the bottom, and also our own install button. It doesn't sound nice, okay? So to solve the problem, we actually want to listen for the event before install prompt. That's how it works. Okay. Then we typically want to prevent default. It depends on the case, but most of the time, in this case, it will prevent the browser's banner to appear. We create a global variable, and we're going to save the event that we receive as an argument, we save it as a global variable. That's kind of the idea. And later, when you click on a button, you have a button, install button, you listen for the click event, and you actually call prompt over that object that you saved before. That's kind of idea. Again, this is not new, okay? So it has been in the wild for a while, but it's something that you should be start using your website in your PWA because it will increase PWA installation rates. Now, this is a trick that I can bet you have never heard about, okay? So it's how to improve iOS installation reliability. So this is about iOS, okay? So sometimes the user installs the PWA on iOS, but the app manifest couldn't be loaded. So let's see the process. You are in a website, okay? Let's say it's a PWA. You click on share, okay? And when you click share, you have a problem with your connection. I mean, your Wi-Fi is off or your cellular connection is off, wherever. So Safari can't load the manifest or the icon at that moment. And Safari loads the manifest when you click the share sheet. So that means that, for example, the icon will not appear, okay? And then you go and click add to the home screen. And you add this to the home screen. And then you can realize that the icon is not the PWA icon. And also, because it's not taking the manifest, sometimes it's not even realizing that it's a PWA. So what you're adding is just a shortcut to the website, to Safari. Okay, makes sense? Without the start URL, for example. So this is a problem. And this happens actually a lot. I don't have data, but in my testings, it seems like sometimes it's around 5% of the time. So 5% of your iOS users trying to install your PWA might have this problem. And sometimes it's not that there is a network issue. Sometimes the problem is that it's taking too much time. Safari waits around 3 seconds for the icon and the manifest to load. And if it doesn't load in 3 seconds, it just discards them. So we have a problem. So Safari will fall back to a browser shortcut with no manifest. So, and the icon will be a screenshot and the link will point to the current URL and not the started URL. So we need to solve the problem. So I have a hack. This is a hack. I don't like it, but this is the only solution that we have. What we can do is we can preload the app manifest for Safari using the fetch API. So this is how it's going to look like. We're going to fetch our manifest. We need to change this with your manifest URL and take the text of the manifest, okay? And with the text of the manifest, we're going to search for the link with the rel manifest, and we're going to change that with the data URI. So what we're going to do is we're going to inject the JSON from the manifest within the data URL. And if we do that when the page loads, for example, then the manifest is already there with the page load. So when the user clicks the share button, the manifest is already there. Okay. Maybe you're thinking, why can't we use link rel preload? Well, Safari is not using preload for manifest, so it's not working. I already tried that. But we shouldn't do this on Android. On Android, this is not going to work. So we are going to do this only on Safari, on iOS, and iPadOS. One quick way to check if this is Safari is checking if the standalone property is in Navigator. This is a Safari extension, and it's only available on iOS and iPadOS. And something similar is possible with the icon. But before that, if you're going to use this hack, we must use absolute URLs in the manifest. For example, for the start URL or the scope, okay? Because if not, it's not going to work. So be careful with that. And please test this on every new iOS version because this is a hack and it might stop working anytime, okay? But it's working today. It's working on iOS 14 and 13 and 12. So, and also on the latest betas of 14.5. That means with this, you will improve iOS reliability when you're installing a PWA. And for the icon, we can also do the same thing. It's a little bit more complicated because we also fetch the icon only when it's an iPhone. We need to take the blob because this is not a text, okay? It's a binary data. So we'll take the blob and then we need to create a file reader and read that as a data URL. And when that file reader ends, we're going to set that base data base64 URL into, we inject the icon in the HTML. That's kind of what we're doing, okay? That works. That actually works. What you need to be very, very careful is with the deprecated Safari meta tags, such as this one. Please don't add this meta tag in your PWA. It doesn't make any sense. You don't need to add this, okay? There is no need to add this. If you add this, what will happen is that if the manifest cannot be loaded or is taking too much time, this is we're going to take as a fallback. And the experience of this meta tag is not the same as with a web app manifest. For example, your start URL will be the current website. So if you're on Twitter and you are looking at one tweet, you are watching one tweet in particular, and you install the PWA at that time, it will always start with that tweet, not with the Twitter's homepage. Okay, so please don't use this meta tag. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so don't do it. And the last part that I have here, I think it's important on installation, is that is coming on Android, is the enhanced installation dialog. Like, look like this. Instead of seeing the old little mini info bar that says add to the home screen, now we can have better installation dialog like this one. Okay, and the installation dialog includes your icon, your PWA name, the install button. So it doesn't say add to home screen, it says install. Looks like a Play Store thing. Your description and screenshots. And for getting this banner and to get add to home screen, to move from add to home screen to install, including your app icon, name, and description, it's available on Chrome 90, but it's right now under a flag, so it's coming stable without the flag pretty soon. You just need to provide your manifest, a description, and an array of screenshots. So you need to go and do it now. Do this now. Add the description in your manifest. It's a text and an array of screenshots, because this will appear anytime, and it will improve a lot the experience, okay, when you are actually installing a PWA on Android, okay? So let's make a quick review of the PWA cheat sheet before ending the day. So basic PWA support, that's something that you know. The app experience, you should manage app storage, app icons, app splash screens. For platform integration, that's something that we didn't cover. We don't have enough time, but you just check this: web authentication, background execution, and app batching. And for installation experience, please provide your custom install UI, improve reliability on iOS, and enhance the Android dialog. I think that this is the current cheat sheet of a PWA, something that you must do when you have your own PWA.